Jujutsu Kaisen has just revealed Kenjaku's new form, and it is insane. Well, I guess you can say like mother like son, because it's the same phase Yuji pulled in a bonus chapter. But speaking of funny, Takaba's curse technique is absolutely broken, as we were told it could rival even Satoru Freakin Gojo. Takaba has the ability to make anything reality, which gives us the much needed copium we all need to bring our goat and savior back. In fact, Kenjaku drops a bombshell regarding RCT and pretty much quotes Thanos.
You should have gone for the head.
Therefore, I have more doses of copium upcoming to give out to Gojo fans as we dive deep into Takaba vs Kenjaku. This fight is more important than you may realize, as it gives us further insight into Kenjaku's character and how everything in the story connects. Chapter 240 begins with some of our gang thinking about how to counter Kenjaku, as they can't have him getting in the way between them and Sukuna if Gojo were to lose, which we all know did happen. He's also kind of way more important because if they only deal with Sukuna, Kenjaku is just gonna complete the merger with little to no resistance. But it's not that simple. Since Yuta and Hakari are players of the Culling game, they still need to be killed before Kenjaku can finish it. This leads the group to conclude it's very likely Kenjaku could ambush them after they defeat Sukuna, which would mean the entire group would be fighting a full-powered Kenjaku whilst they are drastically weakened. Moreover, they determined that while someone like Maki may have a chance in taking down Kenjaku, splitting up their forces isn't a good idea. And this is when Hana recommends sending Takaba, as she's confident his curse technique can oppose Kenjaku. Remember, Takaba saved Hana Kurusu in chapter 214, and she even refers back to it in chapter 220, stating while she can't be certain, Takaba being nearby may have resulted in Hana's survival, inferring back to his unique ability to change reality, thereby giving her intuition on what his curse technique actually is. Looking back at chapter 169, the comedian saved Megami's life too, where Reggie stated Takaba's curse energy increased dramatically, the shift in its output being massive enough to outspeed them and win the battle. Heck, they even declared him as strong. This was because Takaba was confident in his jokes and believed that Megami was a good guy despite having a bad face, where by the end, Megami claimed he was glad Takaba isn't the enemy. But you know who isn't glad? Kenjaku! In fact, Kenjaku watched our previous video on his goddamn phone, as I would like to do a follow-up to it. Gojo could be alive.
How? Hold on, bro.
Whilst fighting Hazanoki, a sorcerer who could use reverse curse technique, Kenjaku purposely attacked his head. This lays support to Gojo's own statement in chapter 75 that the reason Toji lost was because he didn't cut off his head. This stops the curse energy and RCT usage. So even if Sukuna cut off half of Gojo's body, we had seen him recover the full output of RCT after hitting Black Flash, growing out an arm within a second. Gojo's genius and survival instincts could be at play. Back in chapter 189, when Hakari was about to die against Kashimo, he pulled an insane move. In exchange for the rest of his body living, he had sacrificed an arm. This was thanks to an on-the-fly binding vow and curse energy reinforcement to protect the rest of his body. Now throughout the fight, Gojo blew everyone's minds by achieving the impossible, simply running on his natural talent for Jujutsu. So something like this is certainly second nature to him. For example, in the domain clashes, Kusakabe told us that Gojo is changing the perimeters and binding vows of his domain expansion like it was simple, but in actuality something like that was impossible to do in such a short span of time. Hence, the intact head and neck are evidence that Gojo could still use reverse curse technique. But that's not all, everyone, as Gojo told us in chapter 224 that he planned on killing Megami and revive him only after that. Sukuna had shown him the way after witnessing Yuji's death, which means there is a way to bring someone back to life after a death, thereby being Sukuna's mistake that Gojo claimed. But I ain't done with the copium. Chapter 240 tells us that there are two wild cards on his side, Maki and Ui. Even Kenjaku cannot keep tabs on them. As he stated, he tracks every sorcerer in chapter 239. However, because of Maki's zero curse energy and Ui's special transportation technique, they have the opportunity to save him. Kenjaku confirmed in chapter 239 that Ui can do this. This is why in chapter 220 they were making plans regarding the battle, as they infer the idea that Gojo will make it out alive, telling us their feelings if the outcome didn't work out. But to go even further and beyond, remember in our last video we talked about Gojo's connection to Buddha? Well, there's another point we have discovered. Remember that Buddha is someone who attains enlightenment through all his past lives accumulating together to eventually earn the title. Becoming a Buddha is the result of a long process of gradual training and perfection that takes place over many lifetimes. Well, isn't Six Eyes and the Gojo clan doing the same thing in a way? The Six Eyes, no matter what, will always rebirth if the user dies, and are connected by fate to Tengen, the progenitor of Japanese Buddhism that led to Jujutsu in the first place. There have been plenty of Six Eyes users in the past who always cross paths with Kenjaku. So just like Buddha's several reincarnations, Gojo coming back would align his character with this principle as well. And finally, there's Takaba. Although he may be oblivious to Gojo's status, he must know that he was sent to face Kenjaku only after he lost. As chapter 240 claims, that was the plan, which means his power of bending reality can play a role in being a catalyst of rebirth if he finds it funny. Now, since I've given a new dose of copium for everyone in our community, can you do me a favor by hitting the like button, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell, as I will be breaking down if Gojo can defeat Heion era Sukuna next week. This swiftly brings us to Takaba talking to Kenjaku, which can be summed up in this one image. I think I need to smoke some of that good shit Gege is on, cause this was goofy as hell. In chapter 239, Kenjaku attacked Takaba, and yet it seemingly had no effect on him, as Kenjaku even notes that his attack completely worked but had no effect, something that will prove his 1000 years of Jujutsu as meaningless. Kenjaku attacks again, but it has no effect, as Takaba literally calls himself a toon. This is a direct reference to Yu-Gi-Oh's Toon World, as the man even drips out Kenjaku with Bandit Keith's American fit. This leads Kenjaku to believe that Takaba's curse technique is the creation of phenomena, the reality and manifestation of his own mental pictures. Now, he isn't far off, as Takaba's technique comedian makes anything Takaba considers funny to become reality. Nah, I bet if some of you had this power, you know what you're finding funny. You're finding your waifus funny, aren't you?
Y'all know what's going on, and so do I.
But imagine this, Takaba thinks Kenjaku turning into a cat is funny, so he can make that happen. It's also likely that his technique is what allowed Takaba to survive numerous bombings from Hazunoki and heal from the first injuries he suffered without a reverse curse technique. But if you think about it, like balls deep, Hana let this man save her and then sent him to his death sentence. Not only is she stupid and useless, but cold-hearted, as this this could be a bad matchup after all.
Boy, ain't no way, boy.
Throughout the story, we have witnessed Kenjaku being a goofy dude, laughing at the idea of a clown face being the result of his culling game. My man has always had a sense of humor, like this moment in chapter 93, and let's not forget the famous trolling of Jogo being a football. Frankly, even this is funny as hell from chapter 239. This all connects to his condition to be his friend. You must never bore me or you must be my equal, which is why Takaba is in big trouble, since the limitation of his curse technique is that it is dependent on his confidence. Taking us back to how he starts to flex, how he made it to the first round of last year's P1, a TV program that was seen as hilarious due to how bad its performance was. Like, you thought I was about to say good? No! Kenjaku recognizes the show and says that even an ordinary person could get through the first round. Like, we have all seen those clips from those Japanese skit shows.
It's
Whilst this may seem like a simple taunt, Kenjaku is planting the seeds of his eventual victory as he is destroying Takaba's confidence. As this leads Takaba to conclude that Kenjaku must love comedy too. He asks the age-old question all of us do regarding villains. Why are you doing all of this? Where the response is, because it's entertaining and he's curious. This lines up perfectly with Kenjaku's character, as he told Yuki that humanity's future lies in optimizing curse energy and chaos, and he will accomplish that by evolving humans via Tengen's merger. So he's doing it because it seems like fun. Yeah, casually killing over 1 million people is fun to this dude. So Takaba then states that if he can make something more entertaining, there won't be a need for violence. It's written all over Kenjaku's face that he wants Takaba to make him laugh. Like, this fight can be summed up as a try not to laugh challenge you'd watch on freaking YouTube. All of this leads to Takaba using his joke from chapter 169, none of your business. But he just turns it down with logic. Kenjaku explains that the gag would never work for people, as it's not a setup like a different joke if you pull out the spine gag, and that Takaba actually doesn't understand comedy, and it's not fun at all to joke with him. This directly destroys his ego, as Takaba claims that being denied logically by someone who understands comedy really hurts. And this is when Kenjaku takes the opportunity to strike, teaching him a lesson to be more aware of his audience before making jokes. Now you're probably wondering, ABD, how was Kenjaku able to hit Takaba, as he wasn't able to every other time he tried? Well, his technique only activates if Takaba's confidence and conviction is high. Kenjaku proceeded to use logic to break his spirit, and as a result, Takaba didn't find himself funny in that moment. For example, when Takaba makes his classic joke, "Don't marry me, I don't want you as my Wi-Fi," Kenjaku immediately understands how he created this joke. This makes Takaba incredibly happy, but this is short-lived as Kenjaku starts breaking down his magnus opus joke, stating that it won't work on people watching this joke in a movie at home. He further brings in the instance of a popular comedian, Haranishi Takayuki, comparing how pathetic Takaba's punchline is in comparison. And we all know when it comes to comedians, when you have to explain a joke to make it funny, that makes it not funny. In fact, Gege has been inspired by the Joker from the Batman series for Takaba's character. He felt the same frustration when Harley Quinn told him, as seen in this panel, the very line I just stated. Gege confirmed he loved the Joker movie. And what does his character like to do? Crack jokes, where he even made Batman genuinely laugh for the first time in The Killing Joke. Even Batman's successor, Terry McGinnis, talks about how Joker was never funny and thinks he's pathetic.
You make me laugh, but only because I think you're kind of pathetic.
The same is applied to Phoenix's Joker in the 2019 movie. During his first show, nobody laughed, and everyone was shitting on his constant coughs, hence he blamed his audience.
The same way that you decide what's funny.
or not.
Gege parallels this scene in Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 169, where Takaba too blamed the crowd for being so harsh after making that same Wi-Fi joke. Another parallel is Kenjaku in chapter 240, sitting in front of Takaba and explaining why his jokes are shit, mirroring Robert De Niro's interview with the Joker, telling him his jokes are of poor taste.
Yeah, that's not funny.
Even the clothes Kenjaku wears in this panel is similar to Robert in the movie Taxi Driver, which the Joker movie used as an inspiration. Through this manner, Takaba slowly loses his confidence, letting Kenjaku land a direct hit. But since comedy is subjective, just as Joker believes,
Comedy is subjective, Murray.
in the end of the movie, he states, so Takaba isn't done yet. He still wants to make Kenjaku laugh and proceeds to challenge this man to a funny face competition. Like, what makes matters worse, Kenjaku agrees to it.
Cheating karta hai tu.
Since Kenjaku doesn't laugh at this either, Takaba's spirit is broken, and so Kenjaku is able to land another hit on him. This sends Takaba into a mental panic attack as he thinks to himself that Kenjaku may be funnier than him. He states Kenjaku's outfit is so out there that it makes him feel like laughing. Hence, Kenjaku chases down Takaba, telling him to laugh, but the comedian simply can't. According to him, it's no fun if only one person instead of the entire audience laughs. In his existential crisis moment, Takaba asks himself why he's even a performer, and him losing confidence against Kenjaku is actually a parallel to his introduction in the story. His manager mocked him for being unfunny, asking him to quit his job. However, when his friend asked him which one Takaba is out of the comedians who are funny and comedians who think they're funny, to this Takaba answered that it was a 70-30 chance for him. And we know that Jujutsu is all about gambling and having a strong purpose, which he has. Even a 1 in a million chance matters, which is why despite being told he's not funny, Takaba still managed to regain his confidence and believe in his humor. Hence, he can still do so in this fight even if his chance is only 30%. Now, the next part is very important as most of you probably missed this. Kenjaku chasing Takaba down is a direct parallel to his son Yuji chasing down Mahito in the Shibuya arc. Their faces are also the exact same, like mother like son. However, there's also a contrast between the two, as Yuji has been shown to be represented by a white wolf, whilst Kenjaku has been depicted with a black one. If we look at the panels during this fight, we can see Mahito is represented by a rabbit, the prey that is getting cornered by his predator. So what makes the black wolf different? Well, the color black in media usually symbolizes evil and death.
This feels kind of racist.
In an old Cherokee legend, a black wolf represents everything that is wrong with humanity in general. These creatures have also been characterized as the animals of nightmares. After all, Kenjaku has proved his black wolf nature over and over, because if he is not defeated, a terrible fate awaits everyone. All players except him and Sukuna are dead. Now, to enjoy more peak fiction, watch this video regarding Yuji Itadori gaining Sukuna's powers. We explain how he changes people's memories and became a demon god.